Welcome to F1 or F Off, your audio pit stop for F1 news, interviews, and race reviews. I'm your host, Vries.
And I'm Gabe.
Yeah.
What's up?
What it do?
It is a hot day in Portland, I'll tell you what.
Ooh.
It's like they didn't even bother to give us spring. They're just like, oh, remember winter? Yes, summer. It's just like 90. And so I'm just like burning up here in this room. What's weather doing over there in
the Midwest, the Midbest? It's going well here. It has been in like the 70s and 80s the last few days. It's really nice, honestly. It's been a nice change of pace. I was gonna say we also went from just straight winter to summer, but nah, there was actually kind of an increase, like a gradual transition of the seasons, if you will. So there's been like lots of rainstorms and stuff the last few weeks, but yeah, it's nice because I think we are now reaping the benefits of the rain showers. As they say, April showers bring May flowers, right? Although it's like May into June, so that needs to be updated.
April showers, some point in late May, spring flowers. 100%. Let's talk about what we're here to talk about, which is your F1 news, because as Adris said in our intro, that we are your audio pit stop for F1 news.
And there was a lot of emphasis on that one, news.
Yes,
so,
news, yes. So just to start, one thing that I want to talk about and get your thoughts on, because it's been a developing story. So as we have said before, and as we both know, Nick de Vries, as a driver on the grid, has not been doing very hot.
Yeah.
And there has been much speculation about his sort of future with the AlphaTauri team, and I think it's tough to say because like he is a rookie, right? But he's also a guy that's paid to do a job.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And like hitting the wall as many times as he has, even in one race weekend,
it's a bummer.
Yeah,
it's a bummer, especially because he is bringing in. I think the thought process with him was that he was bringing in a pedigree of racing caliber that a rookie would not have because he had so much experience in prior racing circuits, right?
Yeah, Formula E and all of that, yeah.
Yeah, put some respect on this guy's name. It is Hendrik Johannes Nicasius Nick de Vries, man.
Could you imagine if it was a basketball player and the announcer had to say that every time?
Instead of like how they go like LeBron James, it'd be Hendrik Johannes Nicasius Nick de Vries.
You know, the spurt of like, you know, a gas,
yeah,
like, psh,
yeah,
you know, comes out in the side. Yeah,
just nuts.
Yeah, it's here's the thing. We talked about this. That Red Bull is definitely a team that loves to play musical chairs.
Yeah,
and the thing that makes this crazy is that Helmut Marko, like head honcho at Red Bull, literally has come out and said Nick de Vries is aware that he essentially has 3 races to improve his performance in comparison to his teammate Yuki. And if he doesn't, that they're going to swap him.
That's insane.
Which seems crazy to me. I mean, because like imagine that at your job, it was just like, okay, well, you have 3 more attempts to turn in these reports on time, or else like, well, I guess it does happen in people's jobs. So
I mean, Office Space had a whole scene dedicated to the TPS reports. Right?
Yes, so. The TPS reports. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I just like answered my own sort of question with that because like it is like it is a job. These guys are paid to do a specific job. And here's the thing I think people need to understand, and I've known this, and I sometimes forget, and I have to remind myself that, like, when these guys are driving around the track, it's not just, here's the car, good luck, let's see what you can do. It's like, no, they have to produce very consistent results every single time. Yeah. Like, if they're out of their time delta during a practice session or a qualifying session for some reason, and it's not like an accident that happened, like, they have to be consistent even in of themselves in order, because like how else is the team going to get solid data, right?
Right. Yeah. And can you imagine being in a work environment like that? Like how stressful that must be, right? Like, I mean, at least in this environment, they're getting paid tons of money. Could you imagine if you worked at like Burger King and like this is the environment you're dealing with all the time? Like, hey man, you have, just like you're saying with the reports, like
the customer dropped the mustard. He dropped the mustard on the front leg. Oh, look, we're calling in a safety cart. He's gonna mop it up. We gotta get the track clear. Okay, we're going to green flag on the burgers. Green flag on the burgers. Yeah.
So is this Crofty just calling out the play-by-play?
Let's go back to
the buttons touch. The buttons touch.
The buttons touch. Let's go back to the instant replays. You see there, Timmy Thompson didn't put down the pickles on the burger. Oh, well, that makes sense why the customer came back and wanted a refund. Looks like, I'm getting the Stewart managers have gotten involved, and they're going to issue a refund for that customer. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going to affect his Delta time getting out of the store. Yeah, I could, it is crazy to think, like, these guys they're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And I do think it's weird that, like, Nick DeVries doesn't consider himself a rookie, but it's like, come on, man.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so Nick DeVries, though, I mean, he was in Formula E, he was a reserve driver for Mercedes, and he was in F2, right, and F3.
Well, he won the Formula E championship, I think.
Right. But I've also seen there's been a lot of banter about, like, whether or not he really, like, won it on merit, because I think people have been arguing about, like, the point system within Formula E, or at least for the season that he won it. I don't know if that's necessarily a debate, like, worth having without having more information as far as, like, knowing how Formula E really works when it comes to point system, and whether or not it should be something more akin to what Formula One uses, right? But and also, you don't want to take away the fact that the guy won. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of what it is, he won. So
yeah.
But yeah, he still is bringing in experience from prior racing circuits and series.
Yeah.
So it sucks to see him kind of on the back foot like this, and already feeling such immense pressure from Helmut Marko, who, by the way, always says some wild stuff. So, I mean, like, take it for what it is, I guess, with this guy. I mean, this is the same guy who talks about Checo's upbringing in Mexico and how it impacts his racing. It's like the weirdest thing, man. Yeah. It's like, oh, man, him growing up in the mean streets of Mexico, that really has sharpened his driving ability. What are you talking about, dude?
Right. Yeah, he just sounds like a, like your weird old uncle, that's like going off about, what it's like in Mexico, even though he's never been there. One thing I do want to say about this point that I think is fascinating, and like I said, this evolved. So he has apparently recently come out and said, because the speculation about him being Nick DeVries being replaced was out there. And so everybody was like, oh, is it going to be Ricardo? Are they going to swap him for Ricardo? But he has apparently come out and said that Ricardo is not a factor in this.
Right.
That they're actually looking, they have two drivers in their junior academy. The first is Liam Lawson, who is currently leading the Super Formula series. He's a New Zealand driver, and he has a lot of experience with different race series. They're mostly open wheel, but he also drove in DTM, which is like the German version of touring car racing.
Yeah.
So he has a mix of sports car and open car racing, and a couple of championships. He won the Toyota Racing Series, which is an open wheeled series, and the NZ F1 600 series, which it's like the slowest sort of, like, it's like the next step up from karting, where it's like there's sort of like these, like, they almost look like those water strider bugs that are on like on top of like ponds and stuff, when you go camping. They look like that, except just imagine wheels at the end of their little strider legs. That's kind of what they look like. So it's sort of a really low formula, but he still he still did it. He won it. The other guy is a Japanese driver, and I'm definitely going to butcher this name. Ayumu Iwasa. Yeah. So he's their second driver. He's the other driver in the Red Bull pool. He did some open wheel series, Asia Formula 3 and normal F3. He also won the F3 Asia series, and then the French F4 championships as well. So he mostly seems like he has a lot of open wheel experience, but those are their two drivers that they're kind of pulling at. I think it would be interesting to have another Japanese driver on the grid, especially if it's, AlphaTauri, two Japanese drivers. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
What do you think about them kind of snubbing Ricardo in this regard?
So actually, that's a good point. Do you think they're snubbing Ricardo? I don't know if it's them snubbing Ricardo as much as Ricardo truly may not even be a factor in this, right? Like, I think Ricardo really wanted to take that year off, right? To really kind of just reevaluate his relationship with racing and Formula One, and just take a breather from the pressure cooker, right? Because imagine you get thrown into AlphaTauri. What if he goes there and he doesn't perform there? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, what do you think that does to his confidence?
I was thinking about that, yeah.
And I think it's really important that he gets the time to just, like, clear his head, right? Burnout is a real thing It doesn't matter what profession it is. You need to be given that space to just decompress, right? And, you know, maybe at the end of this year, you know, he'll be approached about taking the seat on full time. And if he wants to do it, then great. If not, you know, Christian Horner's just going to keep him to his right side and just know and keep telling Checo, hey, if you step out of line, Danny Ric is here.
Could you imagine a scenario where Max does something that's so egregious that they'd have to just swap him? Like, could you
for Danny?
Yeah.
Oh man, it would have to be.
Yeah, what do you think that would take? Yeah, what would you think that would have to take? Like an intense racist comment towards Lewis, or like some big scandal with like money laundering, or like what would it take in order to get Max for them to swap? Not that I'm saying I want this to happen. I'm just saying, like, with how Red Bull loves Max as much as they do, like, what would it take for it to be a Danny Ricciardo and Perez lineup?
He would have to slander Ginger Spice. He would have to say.
Who would do that though?
He would have to say Baby Spice is the best Spice Girl.
Oh jeez.
Fight me. And then
Christian's just like, well, you're not getting the right tires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he'll say, all that catering money we spent on you last year, done.
He would say, Christian would say, if you want to be my driver, you got to get with my wife. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's
really I love
good.
that one. I know that Danny he wants to come back. He's eager to come back, but I know he wants to come back in a team that's going to be able to produce results. And if we're being fair, AlphaTauri is not really that team. Yuki's doing well, sort of like bumbling around in the top 10, like just barely there, like 11 or 10. So I don't really think the Alpha has necessarily the pace in order to move forward. Yeah. But hey, at the same time, you look at Aston Martin, Alonso's out there winning 3s, right, and then Stroll's down there winning 7s and 6s. So it could be possible that that neither of them can fully extract that performance from the car. And maybe it would fit Ricciardo perfectly, and he'd be able to do well. Who knows? I don't know.
Here's a really stupid thing. As you were saying that, when you said Alonso's a 3 and Stroll's been getting 6s, that made me think. You know how people say like, "Oh, I'm a Chicago 8 and like an LA 3." That just made me think of like what is that scale for F1 drivers? Like, oh, I'm a Monaco 2, but like an Austin, Texas 6.
Jesus. I'd be like a Monaco bottom of the barrel for sure.
Like bloody knuckle scraping. Like I'm there with you.
I'd be a Monaco 10. If we're doing that scale, well, no, wait a minute. Which the way? How does this scale work though? Is it like the higher the number, the better, or the lower the number, the better? Like
so I guess okay. So I think the logic is, if it's a city where you're not expecting like models to be living, right? You'd be a very high number there, and then when you transfer that number over to a city where you do expect people to be, just model status as far as appearances go,
right?
Then that number would drop because we are of the normal folk.
So higher number is better, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
for the most part. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then I would definitely be a Monaco 1. I'd say you know what? Because I've got the whole beard and I'm a husky dude kind of thing. I do own a pair of cowboy boots. I think in Texas, I would probably. Maybe somebody from Texas will reach out. I feel like I would at least be a solid 6 or 7 in Texas.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At least a solid 6.
See, I like this. You're staying humble. You don't want to. You can't be coming out here just like full swinging with haymakers. So.
Right. I don't know, Dries, you're a 10. You would be a 10 everywhere, dude.
Oh man, I'm blushing.
You would, like 100%. You just fit right in.
10 divided by 20.
You could just show up alongside like Lewis Hamilton's crew, or like you could fit right into like even like the gang with like Pierre Gasly and like Charles Leclerc. Like you could just show up with them at like a whatever they're doing, and you just fit in seamlessly. You'd be like, oh yeah, it's like their buddy Idris. Yeah, he's like just hangs out.
That's the highest compliment I've ever received.
I'm just saying. I mean, like maybe I just end up fly fishing with Stroll or something, but.
Fly fishing with Stroll sounds really fun though, man. Like, you can get an examination to his psyche about how he gets those P6s.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be confident about his ability to put a worm on a lure, seeing that he keeps dropping his chapstick when he goes through the pit lane. So that might be tricky for him, but I don't know. We're going to do our little AMA later. But before I get to that, I want to move on to our next topic of discussion. Honda. Bang, bang. So here's a funny thing. Honda officially decided to leave Formula One in 2021.
Does this sound familiar to anyone? No? It should.
Yeah. The stated reason was that they said that they were trying to focus on their zero emissions standards and, electric car technology, which, I mean, 100% go for it. But it seems as though winning a championship with Red Bull and also kind of getting on board with the sort of zero emissions by 2030 and sort of hybrid systems that the sport is advancing, Honda found a reason to sort of be like, well, maybe not. But however, they're still leaving Red Bull by 2026 because, as we know, Ford is coming back, which you're welcome, listeners. We definitely manifested that.
Absolutely.
We literally said that should happen before they announced it. So you're welcome.
We had it on our vision boards and all.
Oh yeah, no, we created that. But they've still expressed an interest in staying in the sport as a manufacturer with somebody. Right. And I guess rumor has it that both McLaren and Williams were trying to court Honda, which, if you know about the history of the sport, those are two racing franchises that have had major success with Honda in the past, specifically in the 90s. But apparently they are deciding that the better bet for them would be Aston Martin.
Oh my god!
And I have so
many thoughts about that.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is Aston Martin and Honda, the team that was Aston Martin, before it was Force India, it was Jordan. And Jordan drove with Honda engines. They were Honda Mugen in like the late 90s and the early 2000s, and they had a decent amount of success. I think they were 1999. I think they were third in the constructors with Damon Hill driving for them. And so there's sort of a history with them in that sense. What are your thoughts?
My first thought is shout out to Christian Horner for calling for calling that there would be a green Red Bull on the grid. Okay. Do you guys remember? I think it was the post-race conference after, I think it was after both Saudi and Bahrain, right? Where Checo and Max were just like, oh, green Red Bull. Yeah, there's 3 Red Bulls up here on the podium. Green Red Bull, And yeah, this is just, I don't know, this is hilarious that they're just completely following in their footsteps. Of course, it's not like Aston is like trying to become Red Bull or anything like that. It's just really funny, kind of cheeky. I'm sure Christian Horner will send out some tweet about it, or we're gonna hear something crazy in Drive to Survive season 6.
Yeah.
But I think this is really good for Aston. Also interesting for Mercedes, right? I think what this is showing is that there might be, I think there's definitely a lack of confidence in the ability for Mercedes to provide consistently high performance results, right? I don't recall. I think it might have been Miami or Baku where you looked at the top 10 drivers, and I think the only Mercedes powered team that was run high in the rankings there was probably like P7 or P8, right? The rest were like Honda, Ferrari with a couple of the Haas's up there, and Alpine was up there, right? And I don't know. It was just interesting that maybe the pendulum has begun shifting where Honda is becoming that golden goose to chase, right?
Right.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to switch things up too, because dude, imagine if Aston actually unlocks a lot of potential in their car based off the engine. I don't know if it's just gonna be the engine that unlocks like monumental power shift for them, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
We know the Mercedes engines are reliable for the most part. I think Russell was the only one that had a mechanical failure this year. That none of the Astons have really had any sort of major mechanical problems. I mean, I think their DRS sort of failed, but that's not engine related. We know the engine is not necessarily fast, but I guess it also depends on the cars. So like the Aston runs the Mercedes engines, they are not fast on a straight line, but they are quick through turns, through the technical parts. They're a very draggy car. The Red Bull is not particularly fast as far as its engine goes. It's just that DRS is so powerful. Their aero package is so incredible, that it makes it makes up that difference.
And so I hear you on that.
Yeah.
But my thinking is that, like, there's a reason Aston is looking to switch engine partners, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they wouldn't just, if they had 100% confidence in Mercedes, they wouldn't be, unless they know something else going on behind the scenes, like maybe Mercedes is going to pull out or something like that. We haven't heard any rumor of that, right? But if Aston is really considering other engine partners, then that means that they have some kind of, I don't know, some information or some confidence in what Honda is doing, that, partnering with them will give them more of an advantage over what they currently have with Mercedes. So that, I don't know, there's something there. But I do hear you about just like the drag impacts on the car. So
yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. I think a Honda powered Aston Martin feels very interesting of a combination.
It's a weird name to say together, right? Aston Martin, Honda.
But I think that there were some, I did see an article, I think it was just speculative. I don't think it's based in any fact, but it was something that said, like, is Lance Stroll's job like in jeopardy after Dad hints at selling Aston Martin to Honda? And I'm like, I don't think he's trying to sell it.
No,
I think it would be stupid for him to sell it now.
Yeah.
Because they're just starting to get some success and they're just starting now to like potentially make money.
Yeah.
So I don't see Lawrence doing that. But at the same time, a businessman will always do this crazy thing where they're always buying, trading, selling, doing whatever. It's just like,
buy low, sell high, right?
Right. It's just like stick to a thing and just see it out, I also see a lot of people are like, we don't even know if Fernando Alonso is going to be racing in 2026. And I'm just like, how do you know that? What if he wins the championship next year and wins the one after that? And then, hello, there's 2026. Are you going to tell him that he's not driving for the team? Like, it's potentially possible that he's still driving for them. He's like on podium positions.
Yeah. Look, let me tell you, there are going to only be two things that survive when there's a nuclear fallout of Earth: cockroaches and Fernando Alonso driving an F1 car on the grid.
Cockroaches, Cher, Keith Richards, and Fernando Alonso's F1 career. Yeah.
It'll still be going, man.
They'll still be going. Yeah. Well, that's
at the ripe
thing.
Age of 97, Fernando Alonso around the corner.
It's so crazy to me that people are discrediting him just based off his age, and that makes me very that doesn't feel good to me. That doesn't, that I don't think, because to me, honestly, at this point, it's like, if you can perform, age ain't nothing but a number. If you were 80 years old and you were capable of getting a third place finish on an F1 car, you can still race. You know what I'm saying? I don't like that whole thought about that like, if you're not doing it in your 20s, then suddenly you're useless. It's like, no, that's not it at all. That is not the T.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, is I think people are interpreting that the wrong way. They should look at Fernando, who is performing at his peak at this age, and be just amazed and really stoked that is a potential avenue for someone at that age, right? That they can still perform really highly at a sport that requires, fast twitch reflexes, very rapid fire thinking,
right?
Rapid fire reflexes, right? And that it doesn't matter how old you are, is just as long as you have a good health, diet, and also, I mean, genetics is also part of it too, right?
Sure, yeah.
But this is something we should really be applauding, right? Think about the F1 drivers from the 50s and 60s. No way, no, honestly, some of these guys were dead by this age because they crashed or they were just not taking care of their bodies. You know what I mean? And also we should also applaud the safety that has enabled Alonso to have such a long career, So, shout out to him, man. He is just on another level right now, and it would be great to see him win a championship just to shut these people up, right?
Yeah, 100%. I would absolutely love it. I mean, I need to try and make sure I at least get a Fernando Alonso Aston Martin shirt this year.
Oh, absolutely.
Just to have one, because I want to make sure I, remember this season in this way. Yeah, I remember it. I was there. Speaking of teams making improvements, let's talk about Mercedes and their Imola upgrade package. apparently they did some major changes to their suspension and to their bodywork, and this was all so that Toto suggesting that it would make it so that this car would be less poisonous to drive. When I heard that, I just thought, that car is poison. Poison. If I were you, I'd take precaution.
Oh, you know what? Actually, hold on. Here we go. Here is some fan interaction. If someone knows the name of the group that sings Poison without looking it up, and you know it, be honest, Scout's Honor, you will get the first FUFO t-shirt merch that we get running.
Yes. So, we will honor that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how there's no way we can know if they're not cheating or.
I mean, sure, but the Scout's Honor.
Yeah, Scout's Honor system. But yeah, that's such a good song. Oh my gosh, I love it.
It is.
But anyway,
we used to just sing that behind like venues and stuff, just like harmonizing.
Poison. Yeah. It's so good. Anyway, yeah, obviously we talked about this a little bit. The W14 has this problem where because of their side pod design, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell's seating position is more pushed forward in the car than it would normally be. And Hamilton describes that as being like driving on top of the wheels, which is not a great sensation.
It's like you're a baby crawling and you're running forward while crawling.
Right.
And your knees are elevated.
Right, or it's like if you've ever been in a truck that was like a cab over truck, or like a van that like was that had the engine like underneath, like right in front of you, like an RV. That's sort of what that's like. It's a very weird sensation. But Toto definitely said that this is not a silver bullet, which I think that's the thing I think mostly disappoints people whenever we talk about things improving or things changing in the sport. Yeah. This stuff doesn't happen overnight. There's no overnight cure. If your package is not quick to start with, it's not going to be quick throughout the season. It might take you an entire season to catch up. And I think part of that's also because other teams are improving, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. No one is static, right? It's really funny when people will say, oh, this will solve it for Mercedes. But I mean, I don't know. And also I'm really glad to see Toto is tempering expectations here, right? Like, you got to come out ahead of this stuff because people hear improvements and bodywork changes, or they see the FIA, the reports submitted to the FIA, like McLaren's car, just entire car being circled, and they think, oh man, that's it, they fixed it, but no, that's really not how it works.
Right. Yeah. I have high hopes for them. I want them to at least be able to give us some battles with the Aston a little bit more. But yeah, do you think that George has a better handle on this car than Lewis does this year? It seems like it.
It does seem like it. Yeah. And I don't know. It's interesting when you take a look back at the 2022 season between the Mercedes drivers, their head to head. And yeah, Lewis was falling behind place-wise and point-wise when compared to George. And we came to find out as the viewers that Lewis was taking on a lot of experimental setup changes for his car, right? So that kind of makes sense because you wouldn't expect the driver to be able to find like consistent performance, right, with that with the setup, right, because it's changing race to race. So it's possible that the same thing is happening this season, but who knows, right? And I think one thing that's really important to note about George's acumen and his talent is that he came from Williams, and that Williams he was driving was not a good car, right? Like, no, it was so twitchy, and the wind would the wind will take any F1 car and will just eat into its performance, but that Williams in particular was just so twitchy, especially in the rear, just could not maintain good speed and momentum through corners. And it was painful to watch sometimes. But I think what that gave George, as far as a skill set is concerned, is the ability to find the best out of any vehicle he's driving, right? That isn't to say that Lewis can't do the same, right? I think Lewis has just had a much better car for a longer period of time, so maybe he's getting back in touch with that. I don't know. I'm not trying to slander my boy Lewis. It's just like I think George there might be something about the car that favors him a bit more. Also, I don't know, with George being a lot taller, maybe the slightly higher CG is helping somehow.
It reminds me of when Pierre Gasly was in the Red Bull, and he was just floundering in the Red Bull. The minute he went back to AlphaTauri, his standings improved, like his performance improved.
He thrived.
And the thing is, they suggested about that was the fact that they said, you know, the style of the car, the Red Bull didn't fit Pierre's driving style. Because it was more suited to sort of what Max does, which Max is a little bit more, apparently some crazy amount of sensitivity controls. Like he just, the way that he attaches it's a little bit more, he's not as rough and tumble apparently, even though, like, you know, he does like to dive bomb down inside on track. But just as far as his actual driving setup, Pierre, I remember at the time they're saying that Pierre is a little more aggressive. He likes to sort of like kick the rear end out a little bit more. And so that just did not suit the Red Bull, but it definitely suited the AlphaTauri. So I would think that it's possible that it's a similar situation, although you'd think that like at this point, Mercedes would just tailor whatever car they have to what Lewis is doing. But like you said, maybe because he's trying all these experimental parts, if that's what's happening again, maybe that's just what's slowing him down, you know, because he's just like trying all this different stuff and he's trying to get, you know, to grips with it. And I mean, honestly, out of those two drivers, if you want anybody testing out new parts to see if they actually work, Lewis would probably be a good person to do. So 100%.
Yeah. That's a really good point.
I'm excited to see San Marino is the next race, right, where they're dumping these. So, I'm curious to see. I hope they do better. There's always there apparently supposed to be a bunch of changes to everybody coming up there. So
this is gonna be. I think this. What's so cool about Imola is that this will be the race that kind of shows. All right, what can everyone really eke out of this season? You know, Red Bull. I'm not expecting major changes. Right, maybe just a minor thing here or there, but. I would say the teams that should be much higher up need massive improvement in performance, I think, at this race weekend. If not, I think you can just kind of write the season off for those guys.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to we finally got a chance here to answer some questions that were submitted to us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we pulled, we did a little AMA, which... I'm just going to say, if you do not follow us on Instagram, do, because for one, we'd like to know, you know, how many of you out there are listening to us actively. And
also just fun to interact with you guys and just hear your thoughts and, you know, just what do you like? What do you not like? Yeah.
No, 100%. And so we pulled everybody and got a few questions. So we're going to go through and we're going to answer these questions out. They're not all racing related. Most of
which
them
is fine. Yeah, which is fine.
Which is fine, though.
Give them all.
That's all good. But do you want to read the first question?
Yeah, sure. All right, so this first question is from Noel G. The question is, dogs, cats, or reptiles? All right, Gabe, you go first.
Okay, so I love any animal that will love me. So it doesn't matter to me whether it's it wouldn't matter what animal it is. So if I had a giant lizard reptilian friend that I could like ride around instead of a car, you know, like a Dungeons and Dragons familiar, and I know that it wouldn't that it would love me and protect me, I'm 100% reptile. So like if there's a reptile out there that's like is very self-aware, as in like it knows who I am and it knows that like I'm a person and it like interacts with me and like I'm all for it. But I would say that my main go-to for animals is typically cats, only because I've grown up with cats and I'm just, I love their little faces and I love the kind of personalities they have. Not to say that dogs don't, and I do not dislike dogs, but if I had a preference, it would be a cat, like myself. Like if I, were to get an animal myself, which I'd like to at some point in my life. And for a while, I wanted to get a Persian cat and then name it after a classical composer like Mozart or something. You have both cats and dogs, don't you?
Yeah. We have a dog, Kiko. He's a Cavalier. Love him. Real derpy.
Big LeBron fan, huh?
Yeah, but LeBron James.
It's not even accurate anymore.
Oh, yeah. Want. This is about 5 years late. He's now a Laker. Fun fact, did you know the Lakers, their team, like the team name is actually from when they were in Minnesota?
That doesn't surprise me now that I think about it. Yeah, there's lakes over there.
There you go. The state of 10,000 lakes.
They can't be the LA Oceans. What's
salt water?
Does the Lakers have what's their mascot? What are the Lakers mascot even?
Probably just a dude with like a basketball for a head, I would imagine. Let's see.
Just
am I right?
The generic. It's just like, look, he's got a baseball for a head. He's got a goofy name. His name is Biscuit. You know, like.
He's like, hey guys. Actually,
hey.
they don't have a mascot apparently.
I'm just gonna say my favorite mascots for any sports team are just monsters that have a wacky name and like a crazy face, like Slider or what's the one for the what is it? The hockey team that's like this like that weird thing. It's like that orange guy.
Oh, like the blob thing. With the,
I forget what his name. It's got the
string.
crazy face.
Yeah, I know.
See, if you're gonna do a mascot, that's how you do it. Just make it like a rejected Sesame Street puppet, and just give it a really insane name and put a jersey on it. That's the best mascot.
Yeah, like the minute it was born, it was just like, kill me.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So going back to the original question, we also have a cat, Nova. She is adorable. I don't know. She's real hit or miss with other people, though. But so to answer the question directly, dogs, cats, or reptiles? I'm gonna say cats because they're independent. They kind of do their own thing. They like to just kind of be on their own. But they do love it. They do like attention, right? Like you don't, especially when you don't give them attention, right? They'll come to you, and like that's when the sparks fly, right?
It sounds like Formula One. They want your attention, but they don't want to act like they want your attention.
Yeah.
Cats are the Formula One of the pet world.
Yeah.
I would say dogs are the IndyCar because they're a little bit more
more
fun,
accessible,
a little more rough and tumble, but like, you kind of have to focus a little more to like get it because there's like a lot of stuff happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then what touring series would be like reptiles.
I feel like reptiles would be like Australian ute racing because it's like very rare, but like the people who are into it are into it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I do like reptiles though. They're like several years back, I had the opportunity to visit so my wife's friend worked in like a reptile laboratory, right? Or something like that. And I got to interact and play with a lot of the snakes in there, and it was awesome. And I was never really a snake person before that, but snakes are cool. Like they're actually really cute and charming. And, I think reptiles get a lot of shade, but they can be really cute, adorable, fun pets too. Thank you, Noel, for that question. That was
thank you.
Nice way to break the ice there. Next question from Catherine. Who would you want to be your driver for a Pirelli hot lap experience and why? Ooh. All right. I mean, I think. All right. So I'm not gonna go with my Stan answer. And which is clearly Lewis. Like, okay. I mean, come on.
All right.
I think it would be really fun to drive with Danny Ric. Mm-hmm. If we're picking someone like F1 affiliated, right? If it has to be someone on the grid, then I think I might pick Alex Albon just because he seems like such a cool dude.
Okay.
I feel like we'd be in the hot lap. And he's just hauling it, right? And he's just telling me about his day and what he had for lunch and breakfast, Yeah. And I'd just be in the back, just like,
right.
like blood draining from my head.
Right.
He just seems like a fun, cool guy to hang out with.
Right.
How about you, Gabe?
Well, so are we giving ourselves two picks, like unconventional, not on grid, and then somebody from the grid?
Sure.
Okay. I've thought about this, and it's tough. My answer was definitely, at first I was thinking like Danny Ric, because I would just want to have fun.
Right.
Like I don't want to get in a car with somebody who's being really serious.
Right.
Like I want them to just like mess with me the whole time, like drive with one hand or something. Like it would just be, just like fun and also just fun to have conversation with. Mm-hmm. I think if I were to pick somebody off grid, there were two answers that floated in my head that I would choose between. One would be Jenson Button, because his driving style is very smooth, and I would love to be able to see that up front. But also, and this is an interesting answer, my other answer was actually Jackie Stewart.
Oh.
I would just be fascinated, for one, to be in a car with a racing legend like him would be incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But two, just to witness somebody of his age, like, be able to whip it around a track would just be awesome to witness. And I feel like he would be a fun person to just listen to how he describes going through the turns and all that.
That's if he makes it past security, though, right?
Yeah. I saw that clip. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, I was just sitting there thinking, do you not know who this man is? You get your hands off him. Dude, like he can go where he wants.
How do you not know that's Jackie Stewart? And
I know. It's like he's the iconic outfit. Saying it just, you let this man pass and let him get an interview for his buddy Martin Brundle. Like, let's just let it happen. But if I were to pick a driver from the grid, I would actually, I think driving with Bottas would probably be fun. Because I think he would have fun with it. He would also just be able to experiencing him do like a good old fashioned like Scandinavian flick around the turns, like just throw it in and just get some power slides happening. That would be awesome to witness as well. I know, but let me ask you this, Idris. Who's the driver you would least want to be in the car driving?
Ooh, that's a really good one.
Mars a spin.
Oh man,
he's not even on the
grid. The reason I'm laughing is because the first person that came to mind was Nico Hulkenberg. It's not like I don't like the guy. I don't know why, but like I just thought of his face and I was like, no, like
no. Yeah.
But no, I mean he'd be fine. I don't know. I feel like it would probably be someone that I look at and I think personality wise I just wouldn't really click with immediately,
right. Yeah.
So maybe Nico Hulkenberg, right? Just from all the things that he said, like he said some things like he wouldn't want to drive a pink car, all this kind of stuff. And I'm just, in my mind, I'm just like, but if it's fast though,
right.
Also who cares? Pink is literally just the way the color appears to our eyes because of the light vibrations, bro.
Right.
Physics, But I don't know. It's kind of maybe Nico. Like Valtteri would be great, Zhou would be great, Logan Sargent would be great, just because it would be interesting to talk to him and just ask him like, yo, how does it feel to be the only American on the grid, and what happened in Miami, Like,
yeah, for me, and I'm only saying this because of where he is currently and as far as like his mindset goes, but I would say actually for me it would be Charles Leclerc, and I'll tell you why. Because I think for the sake of Charles Leclerc's sanity, he should be focusing on the driving of his actual race car and his job, and not be distracted too much to like drive a bunch of a-holes around in a track in a Ferrari. Like I just feel like that would. I just feel like I would just feel bad. It's like, man, like I know what you're going through right now, and I hate that I'm like putting you through this. You know what I mean? Like, because I can't help but feel like it's somewhat of an obligation for those guys when they do. It's like part of what they have to do.
Yeah.
And I would also imagine he probably tried to, get me to listen to his music, which, I mean, okay. But like, I'm here for a hot lap.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm not here for anyone's music unless it's XNDA, bro.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Yeah, it's like, let's switch on some. You ever heard this guy? So our next question is from Elizabeth. And her question was, do we have any bucket list races? Which I'm assuming is like races we'd want to go to that would be on our bucket list.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you think? Will you go first?
Oh, number one, Suzuka. Like, hands down. It's a super technical track. It's Japan. And I don't know. I think there's something about being at a track that I think is widely considered to be one of the most technical, interesting tracks to watch, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's number one. I mean, I didn't want to make this number one because it would be the stereotypical answer to give, but Monaco would be something to see for sure, right? Like that's like absolutely like a once in a lifetime kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Just because of the spectacle of it all, right? I feel like we haven't seen Vegas yet, right? Vegas is going to happen later this year. I feel like Monaco is what Vegas is hoping to be. Granted, again, we haven't seen the race,
right?
But like the glitz and glam and like that allure of what Formula One is supposed to be, right? Like luxury and racing and European boys with lots of disposable income trying to show whose machinery is quicker than the other. That's kind of Monaco, right? So that would be really fun to watch and to partake in those festivities. Roll up in my yacht, park wherever they have their little yacht parking. What do you call a yacht parking lot? Is it just that? The bay?
I don't know, but yacht parking lot sounds pretty great.
That's a good band name.
A yacht lot. Well, I guess it would be a marine. Like a marina is like a cluster of boats parked together. So I guess it would be like a yacht marina. You know, I guess. Sounds right. But I mean, yacht parking lot sounds better. So I'm just that's just what it's gonna be.
I mean, who knows? We don't have money, so.
Right.
And I guess if I could give a third track, I would have to pick. Oh, easy. Brazil. Sao Paulo, right? That would be wild to see because there's just so much history there. Yeah. With that track, and just like that is the home track of Senna, right? Like the GOAT, right?
Right.
And it's just, I feel like Brazil's track is just so like naturally fun to watch. Just with it just feels like a roller coaster as the drivers are just racing over those hills and taking those banks and corners and turns. So those would be my three.
Okay.
How about you?
So my first is actually Monaco. Because for me, it's too iconic and it's too expensive for me to not dream about witnessing it for myself. But, you know, my other two answers are actually not F1 related.
Ooh.
Yeah, I would love to go to the Indy 500 once.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just to witness that, because that would be awesome. I would love to see that. My other answer actually would be I would like to go and either do the Daytona 24-hour or the Le Mans 24-hour.
Oh, yeah.
And like camp on the track. And like, you know, because they do that. Like there will be people you get the ticket to watch, and then you can like basically like, you know, Austin, Texas had this where there was like a trailer park, you know, or like a camping grounds or park or whatever. And people would just like go and they, you know, stay there and then just come over when the race started. And I think that would be super, super fun to be. It would be interesting to fall asleep to the sound of racing cars driving around as noise in the background. That would be a fun experience to witness, just be like late at night up in the things, just like watching people drive. Like, I almost feel like I'd be a teenager doing something late at night again, you know. If I had to give a fourth, it would definitely, I would agree with you with Suzuka. It's such we need more tracks that do counter and clockwise and counterclockwise. We need crossover tracks more, because that's one feature. If I was building my own racetrack, that is one feature I would put in. I would have a crossover because it's just so interesting.
Wicked. Yeah. It's so visually pleasing, and I'm sure for the drivers it's such a nice change of pace.
Yeah, it just gives that interesting kind of challenge to the race circuit. It would be it'd be awesome. Okay, our next question is from somebody named Krista, and her question is, if you could go back in time and had the chance, would you two become F1 drivers?
Ooh, you go first.
Well, to answer this question, we have to talk about the logistics of that. Because if you live in America, it is tough, because in order to even get into Formula One, you have to have the right kind of license. You have to drive in a certain kind of series. And you have to give a certain amount of points. You'd have to like go over to Europe, and you'd have to run in like Formula 2, Formula 3, Renault, you know, French Formula, you know, Asian Pacific formulas. Like you'd have to do that in order to like sort of move your way up. I mean, a lot of drivers end up moving to the UK for that specific reason. But I would definitely say logistically, if all of that was possible for me at a young age, I definitely would have pursued it, because I definitely did tell my mom once that I wanted to be a race car driver, and her response was, no, that's too dangerous. You'll get yourself killed, which fair. But sure. But also at the same time, it's just like the urge is there, you know, like I've said when we would go-karting, I'm still super competitive and I weigh too much. So I slow the car down, but it doesn't stop every 12-year-old from punting me into the chicane every time, like the apex of the corner every time. So I
was just going to say, competitive, especially with these 12-year-old boys who are like trying to overtake you.
Yes. So yeah, if it was possible for me, I would definitely try. But even just being a race car driver in general, I think would have been a very, very cool thing for me to get involved with. I definitely would have tried if I had the opportunity to. But yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I think initially I hear that, I'm like, yeah, that'd be fun. But I don't know if I would want to be a driver. I think I'd be more interested in being like an engineer on the team, designing the cars, testing the materials, testing different components, and, you know, maybe working on the pit crew. You know, I think that would be more where I would fit into the formula that is Formula One. But yeah, being a driver, I don't know. It's fun to go fast for sure. Just like Gabe said, I really enjoy go-karting, but I've never done that competitively, right? And yeah, I guess the lifestyle that comes with being a driver, that I think seems really intense, right? So I have a lot of respect for these 20 drivers. Well, more than that, right? The reserve drivers too, so 30 technically. And all the kids in F2, F3, F4, who are all doing this, and just they go nuts with this, right? They're really intense with it, and they are focused and dedicated to it. And I don't know if I like my life, you know what I mean? I love my family and friends and the life I've built around that. So I don't know if my life would look the same if I were a driver. So if I'm getting that deep and nuance with it, then no. But if it's just about going vroom vroom super fast, then yeah, once or twice.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, one day it would be nice. I still have a dream of like having a little track day car I can go to track days and drive around with. You know, I still wish that for myself, but yeah. I mean, honestly, at this point, if I could just get a racing sim for my room with like the steering wheel and everything, that would be amazing. Just do iRacing.
So here's a live AMA. Like I'm gonna ask you anything. So I guess it's more an AYA. So you just said you wanted to have like a little project car that you could take out of the track. What would it be?
It would be a 96 C4 Corvette. I would make that thing a street missile. I've only seen a few of them like out there, but I think pretty. Like as a platform, I mean, the Corvette has such a prestige as far as being a motorsport racing. I mean, endurance racing specifically, they're just like, they've had a lot of success. And unfortunately, like their attempt in the 90s with the C4 was not great. Like it didn't go anywhere, but that doesn't stop me from thinking like it would be a really amazing platform to try and build on top of, and also just my favorite car. So I couldn't help myself. You know, I'd get like get a little wide body, fender flares come out, widen the stance, make sure it's got some good downforce on the back to hold it down.
Nice.
No hesitation. Well, let's go down. This is our last question that we had submitted to us. This is from Mary, and this is really the big question. Do you think races will ever get interesting again?
That's a good one. This is Formula One, right? So sometimes it's like this. Yeah. Most times it's like this.
Right.
I guess with this question, I think we kind of touched upon this the last time we talked during our race review for Miami GP, that it's more so about those midfield races, right? Like I think that's where you kind of have to find the fun and find the real battles going on, right? Like Formula Best of the Rest or Formula 1.5, just because sometimes some eras, some teams, they just nail it with the regs and it's not even a competition. It's just between the drivers of the same team at the top, and 9 times out of 10 it's going to be the same driver winning the race. And then every now and then, that number one driver just has an accident, just bins it, whether in quali or maybe that they hit a slick spot on the track, or it's rainy or something, things get switched up a little bit. So those are always really fun and exciting races, and the number two driver then kind of starts creeping up, kind of like what we're seeing this season with Checo and Max. Fingers crossed we get a Checo championship this year. But yeah, I mean, I think that question really comes down to just perspective and what you want out of a racing series, right? I think what's great about motorsports is that there's so many racing series out there that you don't always have to just watch only Formula One, right? Or only IndyCar or NASCAR. You can kind of bop around and, just check out races as they pop up and as your schedule allows. Or only watching certain races, right? Like only watching Monaco, even though Monaco would probably be the race not to watch because it's a procession, right? But or at least that's my take on it. Gabe might feel differently because I know he's a Monaco stan. But what do you think, Gabe?
Well, just real quick on that Monaco thing, I think we are gearing Monaco up to be a real banger of a race this year. because like everyone's like, oh, Monaco's processional. No, but nothing ever happens. I guarantee what's going to happen this year. We're going to have like a rain Monaco.
Oh, it's going to be wild.
Or there's going to be something crazy. It's going to be some crazy racing happening. You watch, like it'll suddenly become, and then all the articles following will be like, did we get it wrong about Monaco? Was everybody wrong about Monaco? Is Monaco actually a fun race? Like, with all the thumbnails, that's what's going to happen. So here's the thing, like it is definitely Formula One ebbs and flows as far as it's being good or not. And one thing that actually I heard on DRS from both Alanis and Elizabeth and Nolan, actually, and they're all talking about it, that I think is very important to keep in mind. They're talking about Miami.
Yeah.
Is like, do you remember every single basketball game that happens in a season? You know what I mean?
No,
like, do you remember
right.
like the ones where it's just a basketball game happened? No, you don't, because like crazy stuff can happen and amazing things can happen, but it's not every single game. And that's the thing with Formula One. Formula One kind of hypes itself up as being this incredible thing every single time, but not every race is like super exciting. Like it's a thing that happens.
And that's okay too.
Yeah. Right? And it's so great. And it's completely okay. Like it's completely fine. It's just gonna, but that's what makes those races that become really interesting and amazing all the sweeter.
Right.
When they happen, it's like, ooh, you savor that, Like I still remember the first like 6 races of 2012. I mean, not, lap for lap, but I remember that as being a memorable thing because each race was a different driver from a different team winning every, those first, and I just thought that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen, I ever witnessed.
Like that's real parity, right?
Oh yeah.
At least for those first 6 races of 2012.
Yeah. And so I think that because to kind of bring it to this season, I think that because Red Bull have such an insane aero package, and because everybody knows how that aero package functions now, you're going to see a bunch of the teams next year implementing those style of aero packages with the cars, because the regulations are not going to change that heavily until 2026.
Right.
So it's going to give the teams a time to adapt to what Red Bull is doing, their design philosophy, which I think is going to shore up the competition. So I think that we're in a weird period right now where Red Bull just happened to find a better way to do it from last year. And, and then they just took it and ran. So I would agree with you. I think that rain is a great equalizer. If we get a few rain races in here, they're always going to mix some stuff up. And so I think that really, to answer the question directly, I would say that yes, it is going to get interesting again because it's never uninteresting for too long.
Exactly. Yep. And
honestly, I think you're right. I caught up on the Formula One Academy races, like the highlights on YouTube today. I also watched some coverage from endurance racing and from IndyCar. And I'm telling you, there's some really fun racing out there.
Absolutely.
That exists, especially in IndyCar. IndyCar is super crazy to see, and I'm actually really excited because both Formula E and IndyCar are racing in Portland this year, and I'm going to be trying to get to those races. And of course, like I'll be taking as many photographs and things as I can from those races as I watch them. I think that now at this point, like as much as I love Formula One, and as much as our podcast is F1 or F off, I do think that it would be wrong of us to not explore some other, open wheel motorsport stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just enjoy it. So even if you're just getting race highlights, if you don't, have the access to watch all of them, like if you got, 15, 20 minutes in your day that you can just watch a race highlight reveal, that could be worth it as far as getting you up to speed about, stuff that happens and how exciting things can be out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think Formula One is ever completely boring, especially when you're at a race, and when you're at the race, there's always some level of excitement.
Yeah.
I just think that the TV audience definitely have to have a little bit more juice in the tank to really make it seem like it's a memorable thing that happens. So
yeah, and like I said, I think it's really about like the race within the race, right? Like at least that's my perspective on it, right? And that, like I said it before, right? Fridays for the, what was it, the nerds?
Fridays for the nerds, Saturday was for like the
dweebs,
dweebs, and then the races for the casuals,
right?
For the casuals, yeah.
So, watching like the free practices and the qualifying sessions, I think are really fun because you get to see the drivers in a more pure racing element because it's just them and their machinery, right? Granted, there's some other things that can influence that, but I think you don't really have like the specter of strategy and fuel load and all that kind of stuff that's hanging over your head. It's just really like, how fast can you do it, right? And you get a lot of glimpses into performance, and it's a fun time. But really good question. Really, really appreciate that, Mary, and everyone who has sent us some questions. We do have more questions, but we will save those for another AMA mailbag episode. So really appreciate it. You guys keep sending them in. Really appreciate y'all.
100% send us in more questions, and even just if we're not asking, just send us a question anyway. I love random questions, just someone's like, Gabe, what's your favorite kind of cupcake? I will tell you what it is. I will tell you that it is strawberry confetti. Like that is the best kind of cupcake.
Y'all didn't know that. Y'all didn't know that.
You did not know that. Now you know.
Yeah. My favorite cake for me, just FYI, if you want to send us some cake, yellow cake. So
he likes it with chocolate frosting. That's the only way I like yellow cake.
No. It's gotta be
yellow cake
boy.
With plain frosting.
It's got to be vanilla, boy.
Okay, I mean that's fine. I just just no buttercream and buttercream frosting, please.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to F1 or F Off. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you want to hit us up, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at F1 or F Off, all one word. You can email us at F1 or F Off podcast at gmail.com. Yo, give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast, and be sure to share with family and friends. It really helps us out. Thank you all.
Thanks.